Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to get started in just a moment here. Thank you so much for joining. We'll let a couple people go gather into the room, but we're here, so let's go ahead and get started. You are here for why can't I stop eating sugar? A question I kind of ask myself every single day. I've stopped, but it keeps coming back up. I tell you that much. So I'm excited to be here with you today. And I see a couple more folks entering the room. While we're waiting for folks to come in, go ahead and put in the chat where you are, where you're located at. And I'll put some resources in the chat for you as well. I know a couple, sometimes people are at work and they can't participate, but if you can put in the chat where you're located, I'm in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, Northeast Ohio, born and raised. So excited about that. Anyone else? All right, I am going, so in the chat is a link to the workbook that we're going to use today. And the workbook will have you, it really doesn't go along like word for word, but there'll be a couple of things, a couple of tools that you will be able to access through that workbook. So if you want to go ahead and pull that up, that would be awesome. And when it's time for you to go to a certain page, certain area, I'll make sure I call that out to you. All right, so we are recording. I'm going to pray real quick. Father, we just thank you for the opportunity for us to gather today. May each word that I say be words that will encourage someone, show them what they need to do as it relates to their own health. Father, we just thank you for who you are and for what you do. And once again, we thank you for this opportunity to be together. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I usually take myself off video while I'm going through this. And then as people join, I'll just keep adding them to the room. Well, again, thank you so much for being here for Why Can't I Stop Eating Sugar? Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Stephanie Shaw. And again, I'm glad that you're here. Before we get going, I want to tell you two things. First, stick around to the very end today because I have a bonus I'm only giving to the people who are here live at the end. And I'll tell you exactly what that is in our last few minutes together. So don't leave early, even if you think you already know what you came for or got what you came for. Second, let me tell you who this is for so you know that you are in the right place. Okay. So if you've ever stood in the kitchen at 8 p.m. reaching for something sweet, even when you aren't hungry, you are in the right place. You're in the right place if you've ever tried to white knuckle your way off sugar and it worked for maybe 4 days and then completely fell apart. You're in the right place if you've been told this is just part of getting older. I hate that. And something in you doesn't believe that's the whole story. And you are in the right place if you are exhausted from starting over. Again, I'm Stephanie, and I'm a Christian health coach. I have two nutrition certifications, and I'm also the host of Hello Hot Flash. It's a weekly podcast where I help women in midlife understand what's actually happening in their bodies without the guesswork and without leaving their faith at the door. Here's the one promise I want to make to you today. By the time we're done, you will understand exactly why sugar has a hold on you in this particular season of life. And it has absolutely nothing to do with willpower and nothing to do with your character and nothing to do with how much you love God or how much God loves you. So we'll talk about all of that. But before we dive in, I want to tell you why I'm standing here or I'm actually sitting here teaching this all to you. It was March 23rd, 2027, sorry, 2017. Got to get my years right. So March 23rd, 2017, I was on a business trip in New Orleans. I was walking down the street. My face went numb. My body began to shake. And by the end of that night, I had ended up in two different ERs. And I was there with just one work companion. So I had no family around. It's quite devastating moment in my life. And over the next 2 years, I saw 18 different doctors. I went to two world renowned medical facilities across 4 different states. And I also spent over $20,000 out of pocket, and every test came back normal. So the MRI, the CT scans, all the blood works, everything was normal. My best guess eventually was that it was perimenopause and the food that I was eating. And that is what was causing the twitching in my eyes, the tingling in my hand and feet, the weight gain, racing heartbeat, brain fog every day. I was waking up at 3 a.m. and I got really, really anxious. And I am not a person that had anxiety in the past. So I had anxiety and there was no focus. So there was a ton of different things going on in my life, not exactly during the ideal timing. I was running a business, I was navigating my family. My oldest son was graduating from with his master's degree. My youngest son was still in high school, graduating from high school. So it was a really rough time for me. Then there came a point finally when I said, enough is enough. I realized what I was eating was connected to what I was feeling. And it was costing me, again, more than my health. It was costing me time with my family and my ability to do the work that I believed God had called me to do. So that's why I do what I do. I want to go ahead and get into it. In the chat, you guys have a link, and that link is to the workbook. If you can pull up the workbook, it'll probably say make a copy. If you just click on that, it'll automatically upload for you. I want to take you to page 1, and let me pull up my workbook real quick. Page 1 says where I'm starting from. So, in 1 or 2 words, how would you describe your relationship with sugar and cravings right now? You can type that in, you can put it in the chat, and then, or you can take yourself off mute and share. It's totally up to you how you like to share that. But in a word or two, how would you describe your relationship with sugar and cravings right now? And what have you already tried? So I'll give you a minute or so to fill that out. Okay. All right. I know it's so different for every single person, but since you're here, I'm going to guess that you're working on your relationship with sugar, if nothing else, right? So I want to start by saying something, and I hope you had enough time. There will be a couple of different times during the day or during the session where you will have opportunity to pause. So if you need to go back to that, or if you need to go back to it at any time, that information is there for you. I want to start by saying something that might be a relief to hear. I know that you've tried to, again, white knuckle your way off sugar and it hasn't worked. Again, I want to tell you that this is not a character problem. I'm going to keep coming back to not a character problem, not a willpower problem, because a lot of times we assume that that's the problem and it's not. This is actually a biology problem, and biology problems need biology answers. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let me give you a picture of what's actually happening inside your body right now, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then the shame goes away. Your body runs on 2 hormones that matter most for this particular conversation: estrogen and cortisol. Estrogen is the one you've been hearing about in menopause. It gets the bad rap. It's a hormone that for most of your adult life help keep everything stable: your mood, your sleep, your metabolism, your relationship with food. And when your estrogen was steady, you could have a cookie and move on. Think about your 20-year-old self eating a cookie, slice of pizza, some pop, stomach still flat after all of that, right? You had this buffer and a cushion. In perimenopause and menopause, that cushion goes completely away. Your estrogen drops, not gradually, but in waves. It's very unpredictable. And sometimes this happens overnight. And here's what that means practically: your body's ability to manage blood sugar gets significantly less efficient as estrogen takes those deep dips and those waves up and down, up and down. So let's get specific about what less efficient actually means, because I want you to see the whole mechanism, not just the headline. The medical name for blood sugar is glucose, and I'm sure most of you have heard of that. Glucose is a fuel that runs every cell in your body, and your brain is included in that. When you eat something high in refined sugar or refined carbohydrates, like donut, cookie, cake, cereal, boxed or processed foods, your glucose floods your bloodstream, and it floods it very, very fast. Your pancreas answers or it responds to it by releasing insulin. And the insulin's job is to sweep sugar out of your blood and into your cells. Here's the part almost no one explains. A fast rise in glucose is almost always followed by an equally fast fall or a crash. And your body reads that crash as an emergency, which is exactly what fires the cortisol response. So this all works together. And cortisol, as we know, is our stress hormone. It's made by two small glands that sit on top of your kidneys. In a genuine emergency, cortisol is a gift. Okay, a lion is chasing me, cortisol kicks in, I start to run really, really fast. I know to get away. My brain is telling me, move, dive, climb a tree, what have you. In that case, it's good. It's a gift. It sharpens your focus and gets you ready to act. That system has kept our ancestors alive, right? But here's the problem. Cortisol cannot tell the difference between an actual emergency, lion chasing you, car falling on a small child, and a blood sugar crash. Both fire the same exact alarm in our brains. And when cortisol fires, two things happen at once. First, it screams like, get fuel fast. I really need something to eat. And that screaming is what takes you to that vending machine at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The one, when you like knock the old lady down to get the Snickers bar. Think of the Snickers commercial. And then second, it pulls resources away from the part of your brain responsible for judgment and clear thinking. That part of the brain that would have paused before you sent the email, the part of the brain that may have addressed your coworker or your employee a little differently. That part of you that says, I don't need that, goes completely quiet, not because you're weak, because cortisol is louder than willpower every single time. Glucose and cortisol are in constant conversation, one setting off the other all day long, especially on the days you're running on refined sugar. So if you get up in the morning and have a bagel and orange juice, you think, oh, I got carbs. Orange juice is a fruit that's healthy for me. That's refined sugar. So your body is getting hit with too much sugar at one time. So when you're running, when your day starts off that way, then you're setting off a number of different signals. This is the actual mechanism behind the wall that you hit around 3 p.m. So that morning breakfast, when it's orange juice and pancakes and syrup and so forth, that contributes to the wall that you hit at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It's not a lack of willpower. It's biochemistry happening in real time in your body most afternoons. And here's the part no one tells you. When you feel shame after reaching for something sweet, that shame raises your cortisol level. Remember that stress hormone where we're like, it's good because we're running from a lion. It's bad when it's interfering with our brain health. Reaching for something sweet can often cause shame, which will raise your cortisol levels. Elevated cortisol makes the next craving come faster and it makes it hit harder. You are not in a discipline failure. You are in a biological loop that shame is actively making worse. So the weight you're noticing around your middle, if you're noticing that, that is also cortisol. It's also been coined cortisol fat or cortisol belly. So when cortisol stays elevated, and in this season, for most women, it does, your body stores fat specifically in the belly. Not because you aren't working hard enough. You're probably working out and still wondering why it's there. This is why. because your stress hormone is telling your body to hold on to fuel reserves. It's like, I don't know when I'm going to eat again. I'm stressed out. I don't know if she's going to feed me. So let me hold on to reserves. It doesn't know that the threat isn't real. It just knows that the stress signal has been turned on. And again, not a willpower problem. It's just the hormonal environment that we're in. And you cannot willpower your way out of a hormonal environment. You have to change the environment. So notice the flow here: refined carbs, the glucose floods the bloodstream, your pancreas releases insulin, that fast rise or that hit that you get. Your cortisol then fires, your body reads that as an emergency, and just as fast, your blood sugar crashes. So it's like this loop. It is a loop. It's a continuous cycle that we keep ourselves in. Before we go any further, I want to, because I think it will change how you look at your own pantry at night, I want to show you a slide. So part of that loop that we get in becomes because we make assumptions about some of the foods that we eat. So perhaps you eat a flavored low-fat yogurt every single day, but the flavor is strawberries, right? That's good for you. Well, that low-fat strawberry yogurt, specifically Dannon strawberry, because that's the one I looked at, has 4 teaspoons of sugar. A Cliff Bar, which is, the protein bar, I looked at the peanut butter kind, it has 4 teaspoons of sugar. So even the healthy things are being disguised as healthy, and there's a lot of sugar in them. Continuing to eat that quote unquote healthy without actually reading the labels can help you spiral. And then the other one I put is a can of soda, because a lot of times, you want a quick boost, you drink a can of soda. 10 teaspoons of sugar. When I do this presentation as a workshop and I'm in front of people, I actually take the sugar, and while I'm talking, I pour, and people are like, "What?" So I would ask that you do the same thing. Put 10 teaspoons of sugar into a glass and see if that's something that you want to drink every single day. And again, this is not Stephanie beating up on someone and saying, hey, this is a bad thing or whatever. It's just information. And the more educated I became, the easier it was for me to start sleeping all night, for my hair to stop falling out, for me to have more energy, for the brain fog to decrease as well. So that's the only reason I'm telling you. All right. All right. Perfect. So here's what makes this very, very sneaky. As I said, sugar hides. Sugar doesn't always say sugar on the label. It hides behind more than 50 different names. So dextrose, maltose rather, evaporated cane juice, rice syrup, and even much more, which means the healthy choice on your counter may now be carrying more sugar than the dessert that you skipped out of guilt. So I'm not going to read you all 50 plus names. The full list and the system for spotting them at the grocery store is actually one of the resources in my program Reclaimed. But I want to leave you with some homework. Next week, one time a week, when you pick up some food, read the label and see if you can find the hidden sugar in your healthy food. All right. Let's go back to the workbook. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here. For those of you who just joined, in the chat, there's a link to a workbook. So if you can pull that workbook up, then we're going to go to page 2 of the workbook. It's entitled The Cycle. So let me pull my workbook up real quick. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should know this, right? 6 different parts of this cycle. So it's the hormone shift, which you may or may not recognize, your insulin resistance, which you may or may not know that you have, but I can pretty much guarantee you know about blood sugar spike, blood sugar crash, and craving. What I'd like for you to do is circle the one, or highlight, bold, whatever you need to do, because I know you're working off a Word doc, the one that feels most familiar to you right now. So do you feel, after you eat something sweet, do you feel like all this energy, like, hey, I'm so happy now? And then 5 minutes later, you're like, I need a nap. So that would be the crash. So are you feeling the spike, the crash, or are you constantly craving some sugar? So which stage do you recognize most? And what time of day does this cycle usually hit the hardest? That's really, really important. Not just knowing that the cycle happens, but recognizing what time of day the cycle actually happens, it becomes part of a mapping journey. And once you can map out where the triggers are, when they happen, that's how you can get to the next level. All right. I'm going to go back and share the presentation again. All right. Awesome. Good. So we did that. Hopefully you were able to do that pretty quickly. Most of the sessions I do give you a couple minutes, but that one you can probably figure out while I was talking. So I want to name one thing before we move on, because I think it matters spiritually, not just physically. So many of us have internalized the idea that struggling with food is a faith failure, that if we just prayed more or had more discipline, we'd have this handled. I want to gently push back on that. Your body is not your enemy, and it is not a referendum on your spiritual maturity. First Corinthians tells us that our bodies are a temple, and temples are maintained, understood, and cared for. They are not shamed into submission. Understanding what's happening in your body is an act of stewardship, not a failure of faith. All right. I want to share something that one of my clients, Wendy Davis, said. After working with me, she said, I participated in a health and wellness program with Stephanie, and I lost 14 pounds and several inches. It has been the only time in my life that I have lost more than 5 pounds. I was supported as well as educated along the way, and the tips have stayed with me. Stephanie was a wealth of knowledge, and she has obtained it the hard way by overcoming serious chronic health issues. God led her then, and God leads her now to help women overcome menopause and food and nutrition issues that we face every day. And that was Wendy. And Julia said, when you understand how your metabolism works, then you can fire it up again. A lot of the progress I made, especially in the weight loss area, which is almost 25 pounds now, was related to understanding how to get that metabolism healthy again. Once you get the things inflaming your body out of your body, you feel better. I love seeing Julia in the, she's one of the folks on this list that actually lives in my community. So I still see in the community, and like she still's kept the weight off. She still has the same amount of energy. So it's really, really awesome to see that. I want to open the chat up real quick and ask what's coming up for anyone. Again, I know a couple of people might be at work, what have you, but if there's anything coming up for you or any questions that you have, let me know. You can take yourself off mute or put it in the chat. Okay, if I don't see anything, I'm going to keep on moving here and make the best use of our time. And again, if something does come up for you, just let me know. Put it in the chat. I'll see it. And then at any point in the conversation, we can work from it. All right. So I want to do the next part. And I think this is really, really important. I want to get specific because understanding the biology is one step, but it's not the whole picture. Sugar cravings aren't only a blood sugar event, they're also an emotional event. And here's something I want you to really hear. You're not undisciplined. You are responding to something. The moment you know what that something is, everything changes. And there are 5 emotional triggers I see in midlife women over and over. As I describe each one, I want you to notice not which ones you wish were yours, the ones that actually are. And before we go over the triggers, I want to tell you a really quick story. I do a weekly podcast called Hello Hot Flash, and I was interviewing one of the women. She was a coach, and she was helping someone come off sugar as well. And the woman just could not get it, just didn't understand what her trigger was. She was trying everything she could. And she went back to something that her mother did, always blaming the mom. I'm a mom, I'm a granny, so I can still say this. But something that happened in her home that was very, very impactful. And the way that her mom, quote unquote, kept her quiet about it was to give her candy, give her food to eat, specifically candy. She'd take her to the store, let her buy whatever food candy she wanted, and then she kept quiet. So food and candy and sweets became her friends. That became her emotional support system. And she was like almost 50 before she even realized that connection. So that's why I want to take you through this part, the trigger map, because a lot of times when we can understand what that trigger really is, I'm going to stop right here. But when we can understand what that trigger really is, that's how we can begin to move forward. All right. So let me share again. And here are some of the triggers. For the first one is stress and overwhelm. This is too much. Cortisol from stress spikes your blood sugar briefly, which then drops. The craving is physiological, not just emotional. And then some people may feel lonely or disconnected. Estrogen decline reduces the oxytocin satisfaction. So we really need real connection, not a substitute. I always often say, if nothing else, phone a friend for 2 minutes, because sometimes we live in isolation, especially in the world where we work from home and so forth. So it's important to have that connection to people. And sometimes without that connection, sugar can become that connection for us. There's the reward. So I deserve this. I did something. The mixed match is between what we reach for and what actually restores us. So is the sugar what you need to restore you, or is it reading scripture or journaling or going to an exercise class? What really is that? Excuse me. And then there's boredom and restlessness. And we all are familiar with that. I don't know what to do with myself. Boredom was mine for a long time. Boredom activates the same dopamine seeking circuit as hunger. So you want a quick hit in order to cure that boredom. Just like with alcohol or with drugs, sugar acts or reacts in the body the same exact way. So you need that hit, that dopamine hit, and that happens a lot of times when we're bored. And that's why we go navigate to sugar. And then grief and emotional pain. This is the quietest and most common trigger for us as women in midlife. Here's the problem I want you to walk away with, or the pattern rather, I want you to walk away with. It feels like this, so we do this. If it feels like overwhelmed, the cookie is not the answer. It's completing the stress response that's your true answer. If it feels like the house is quiet and no one has asked how you're doing all day, the answer isn't sugar. Again, it's a real connection. And if it feels like something underneath it all hurts, that one needs a container in and of itself. Like, this hurts. It needs somewhere to land. It does not need a candy bar. And I know it's really hard to sometimes disconnect from that. But once you name which one you're in, you stop being blindsided by it. Again, I know boredom and restlessness is mine. So I have created some very simple, practical tools for myself in order to recognize the trigger and to move past it. One of my last clients, hers was boredom as well. I've had someone, grief has come up for people. Once you recognize a trigger, learn what I teach you and reclaim, and then you're able to turn off that trigger and keep moving forward. Right. So in Reclaim, we get to the root cause of why we're eating sugar, because again, biology is involved, but emotions are always involved as well. Let's head over to, and I think someone after the last time I announced it joined. So in the chat, there is a Google link, and I don't know if it refreshes itself or not. So put it in there again. There's a Google link to the workbook, and I'm going to pull up my workbook, and page 3 is the trigger map. So those are the 5 triggers that I just went over. Go through this. I'll give you a minute or so to go through this, and then I'd like for you to just circle when or if this is a trigger for you, right? And we'll give about a minute for that. All right. Shelley described it, one of my clients, Shelley, described it this way. I found that when I was eating the plan, my mental health was in such a good place. I wasn't worried about the weight because I knew I was eating food to fuel my body. My mood was stabilized and I was more focused. Awesome. Yep. Are there anything coming up for you guys at this point? If there is, go ahead and put that in the chat, and then I'll respond to that as we go along. And I won't. I'll keep the flow going here. But again, if you have anything, just put that in the chat. Right. So let's talk about now what freedom actually looks like. So if willpower isn't the answer, I keep saying willpower is not the answer, you're not broken, so forth. If it's not the answer, then what is the answer? I want to paint a picture of what's actually possible because I think most of us have only ever lived in two modes: restriction or giving in. There is actually a third option, and it's the one that I live in now. Freedom isn't white knuckling past every craving for the rest of your life. Freedom is regulating the cycle underneath, the blood sugar, the cortisol, and knowing your triggers well enough that they don't blindside you anymore, just what we talked about. So at that point, the cravings get more quiet, they're fewer, they're more manageable, and the kind where a cookie is a choice, not a 3 p.m. emergency. Like, don't we all want to be there? Yeah, I saw that something came up in the chat. Thank you guys for noting that you're at work and you're listening. Angela, I'm going to send an email out afterwards. So I'll put the link in that email, or if you just copy it and then, text it to yourself or what have you, but I'll make sure that via email, you at least get the worksheets. So, but you got it though. You figured out that stress was the trigger. Yeah. Yeah. I know it's, I point back to boredom for mine, but most of the time you can kind of look at pretty much all of them. And at some point they come up for you guys, for me. So yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. All right. And Stephanie, hey, Stephanie. I really like my name. So when I hear us meet another Stephanie, I get a little excited. Stephanie, in the chat, there's a link to a shared drive, and you can pull that up, and that's the workbook that we're going through. All right. So again, let's talk a little bit more about freedom. Right. So again, freedom feels like that Tuesday afternoon when your blood sugar is stable and you walk through the kitchen and the cookies on the counter are just cookies. I just wrapped up a 40-day reclaim session, and one of the folks, Connie, she is a caregiver for her dad, and she has her husband and her son at home, and she said, I walked in the kitchen and the cookies. No, I don't think it was cookies. It was I can't remember what it was. It was one of her favorite snacks. Was sitting there on the counter, and I just walked by, and I didn't even notice that I totally ignored it. So that was really, really a cool moment. And that's what happens when freedom is there. Like, you don't notice the food that's there anymore. If you want it, you want it. If you don't want it, you don't want it. You're not been driven by what's showing on the counter, right? So here's what design looks like in practice. Lynn Ann is one of my clients as well. She said, I've been working out and fasting, eating only between noon and 6 p.m. with a snack at 8 p.m. and couldn't lose the weight. I started working with Stephanie, and after 3 weeks, lost 7 pounds, and I was eating more and exercising less. That's like my favorite testimony ever. Who doesn't want to eat more and exercise less? But it totally worked for Lynn Ann because she started to understand what worked for her body. Notice what happened here. She didn't out discipline the problem. She changed what her body was actually running on. That's design, not willpower, right? I want to give you something concrete to leave with today, because I don't want you walking out of here with just a feeling. I want you to walk away with an actual next step. So here it is. Well, you already have one. You're going to read a label, right? You're going to look for the hidden sugar on a label. But the next one is, during your first 7 days, starting tomorrow, I want you to do this. I think I'm on the wrong slide here. Let me see. Yep. Starting tomorrow morning, before you eat anything, read one ingredient label. So we talked about that. Use what we just talked about. Here's a hint. Sugar is hidden under OSE. So OSE at the end. So fructose, maltose, dextrose. All of those are hidden sugars. And then flavor, if it says flavoring or if it says natural, probably sugar is included in that. So look for some of those. Then every time a craving hits this week, before you reach for anything, name your trigger. So, is it stress? Is it boredom? Is it loneliness, disconnection, grief? Name your trigger. Just name it out loud and in your head. Don't stress about it. Don't think about it anymore. Just name your trigger. And then go back to page 4 in your workbook, your highest risk moment, and do the one thing you wrote down the next time that moment arrives. All right. So we're going to go to page 4 in a minute. We'll get to that in a second. All right. So that's completely real. It will help you. But I want to be honest with you about something because I've watched this happen for years with tons of different women. A plan doesn't fail because it was a bad plan. It often fails for two very specific reasons. First, motivation decays. You know, you're going to get off this call, you're going to be excited, and you're more than likely going to get through those 7 days. Whatever you feel right now sitting here, that feeling has a shelf life measured in days, not months. And then, second, something you didn't account for always happens. Day 12, you're just not feeling well. Day 20, you have to take a loved one to a doctor's appointment. Day 27, you're at a wedding and your favorite cake is sitting at the table right in front of you. Every plan, no matter how good, meets a moment it didn't plan for. And in that moment, what you need isn't another worksheet. You need someone who can look at your specific situation right then and tell you what's actually happening and what to do. I love the fact that I'm on the app that we use. I can see when people are texting in and like, hey, I'm, at a wedding with a cake in front of me kind of thing. What should I do? And I do have scheduled days where I respond, but I'm often able to respond and like, hey, here's a hint, or I'm at the grocery store. Should I buy this? Here's a hint as to what you can do. I love when that real life, those real life moments actually take place. Here's something you could do tonight. You can open you may be thinking to yourself, I can figure all this out by myself. Do that. Open an AI chat box and ask it to build a sugar cutting plan. It'll do it. It might even look really good on paper. What it can't do is sit with you on day 20 when you've slipped and tell you from having actually walked this season myself that you're not starting over. You are simply continuing. I can't put you in a room with other women who are exactly where you are at exactly 3 p.m. on that Tuesday afternoon. So you're not troubleshooting this alone at your kitchen counter. And it has never been menopausal. So it does not understand what is going on in your body. You are either perimenopausal or postmenopausal. It's very rare that someone is actually in menopause because menopause is only one day of your life. But most folks on the call are perimenopausal or postmenopausal. AI does not understand that. It has not lived in your body and it has no lived experience to offer you, and it cannot sit with you in community. That part, the part that actually gets you through, has never been something you can just automatically generate. It's something you have to be held through. I'm not telling you that to talk you out of trying to do this on your own. Try it. Use what I gave you today. I'm telling you because I want you to notice, honestly, over the next 7 days, which of those two things happens to you. The motivation fails or fades, or life just throws a curveball, because that's exactly the gap Reclaimed was built to close. And I'll show you exactly how at the end of our time today. All right, so let's go to our workbook again. I think I've caught everyone. Let's see. I don't have your name. I saw iPhone 5 came and and I'm not sure if you were able to see the workbook. So there's a link there to the workbook. And we're going to go to page 6. Let's go to page 6 of the workbook. Pull mine up. What does it say? It says, if the cycle were regulated and your triggers were known, not perfect, but known, just a lot calmer, what would your relationship with food and energy feel like? Write that in one sentence. What would that relationship with food and energy actually feel like? Okay. All right. I want to navigate to the faith section because this is for people who are including Christ in their decisions as they're walking through this season of life. So I want to take a few minutes just to talk about that. One of the most devastating things that happens to women in this season can be this. We start to believe that our body is somehow broken and that something has gone wrong with us. That that what we see in the mirror and what we feel in our body and what we cannot seem to fix, no matter how hard we try, is evidence somehow of some type of failure, maybe even evidence that God made us wrong. I want you to read what I have on the screen there. It's Psalm 139. I love verses 1, and I need to look. I think it's 17 or 18. I kind of try to navigate through that entire section because it's David talking about how God sees you when you sit and when you rise. It's so beautiful. But I pull out verse 14 that says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. I want you to sit with those words for a moment, fearfully and wonderfully made. So the Hebrew word for fearfully here is yar, which means with reverence, with awe. So the awesome God has created you with awe, not with carelessness, not as an afterthought, with the same reverence as David had been standing before God. That is the body that we are in right now in this season with our hormones and our belly fat and our 3 p.m. cravings and even our exhaustion. The body is the one that was made with this body, our body, your body was made with awe. So, what does it mean to surrender a body you've been fighting? What does stewardship look like when you are depleted and discouraged and you started over so many times? I think it starts here, releasing that verdict, releasing the idea that your body is broken, that you are broken, that this is what you deserve or what you're stuck with. We want to truly surrender to God. God, by saying things like, God, I don't fully understand this body or this season, but I believe you made it. I'm releasing any shame. I trust you. Please help me steward what you made. That becomes the icing on the cake. A lot of times people will ask me, how did I navigate through everything that I did over those 2 years? And I just want to like sum it all up in one word, God, because that came first and then everything else began to work together. Romans 12:1 says to offer your body a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, which is your true and proper worship. Not a dead sacrifice, a living sacrifice, something that is still moving, still breathing, still in process, still being made. And I don't know if you guys ever listen to YouVersion, but today the scripture was Romans 12:1. I'm like, looky there, because you know there are no coincidences. And they were talking about that living sacrifice. So you are not done. This body is not a verdict, and the work ahead, if you choose it, is not punishment. It is stewardship. Uh, Head back to your workbooks to page 5. Let me find page 5 real here quick. Any questions? Anything at all that's coming up for you guys? Anything that you want to ask me? Any concerns that you have? This is set up for 90 minutes, and we usually go the entire 90 minutes. So, again, I know some of you guys are at work. I'll make sure that I get the recording over to you. I have no idea where page 5 of my workbook is. Look at there. Here it goes, right in front of me. All right, page 5. What verdict have you been carrying about your body in this season? So, what have you told yourself that it's not the truth about yourself this season? What do you want to release to God right now? And write a 1 sentence prayer of surrender, just a simple prayer between you and God. I will not ask you to share this at all. So take a couple minutes and let's do that. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time. If not, again, you have complete access to it. So I'm going to go ahead to the next section, right? So perfect. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. So here's where I want you to land. Here's where I want to land with all of this. You came here today because something in you knew there was more to this than willpower. And you were right. You've spent the last hour understanding the biology, naming your triggers, taking a real first step. And if you went there with me, releasing some of the verdict you've been carrying about your own body, that is real work. So you've already started the real work. What you did today is awesome. But here's what I know from years of doing this. Understanding is simply step one. Women who understand everything and change nothing, I've watched it happen over and over. That's why I was sick for 2 years, because I understood that I needed to stop eating sugar. I understood that I needed to exercise more. I understood all the things that I need to do, but I didn't take action until 2 ER visits in one night, right? The information often finds the shelf. Life comes back in, and 90 days from now, everything is still the same. The women who actually change, not temporarily, actually change, they don't do it alone. I had to have an accountability partner. I had one that was loving and kind, and another one that kind of kicked my butt. Like, you need to do this. But I needed it, and I needed both of those types of personalities in my life at that time. Um, Again, women don't do it alone. They do it in structure and community with daily rhythm and accountability, and something that holds them on the days when motivation is absolutely nowhere to be found. Because motivation is not a personality trait, it is a fluctuating resource. It runs out, and when it runs out, the environment, things that are going on around you, take over. I've built Reclaim to support you. I want to tell you about another one of my clients, and her name is Tanisha. She came to me after a birthday vacation. She put on a bathing suit for the first time in months and said, and I'm quoting her, "This is ridiculous." I think she even said it with that tone. What in the world happened to me? She had been blaming menopause. So we all do that. I blamed perimenopause before I would own that I was eating the way that I was eating and not moving my body enough. So again, we all do that. And here's the thing, menopause, it really is a part of it. But what she told me changed everything for her. She said a lot of things are still based on what we are doing personally in our choices. Tanisha took ownership, and then she did the 40 days. I had such an amazing time with her. She was such a huge success. By the end, I could visibly see the change in her facial structure. Her hair had grown, her nails are growing, her sleep shifted. I think I'm gonna say week 2, but I'm almost positive it was week 1. So that was like one of the first. She's like, I slept until 6:30 in the morning. I don't know when's the last time I did that. So we could visibly see, and she could physically see all of the changes that were taking place just by eliminating the quote unquote good sugar that she was eating, or the good foods that she was eating that had sugar hidden in them. So she also said it wasn't that my hair couldn't grow. It's like now I've avoided some of the things that were stopping the natural progress of what your body should do. And she said something about the program that I want every woman in this room to hear. Great coaching is someone helping someone to take ownership of their own journey so that they can repeat that thing, whether they're with you or not. And what's so awesome, Tanisha is now doing another 40 days on her own, and she has her parents joining her. So I'm not gonna brag on myself. I'm gonna just say she built the tools, she built the skills by the information that I provided for her. And now not only is she doing it for herself, she's able to help her parents as well. And she's not the only one. So Tanya said, Stephanie developed a personalized eating plan and advised me on some do's and don'ts. My numbers are now back in the normal range. Tanya's doctor had told her she was pre-diabetic. My numbers are back in the normal range and I'm feeling better than ever. Katrina told me, what you had said to me, the natural path echoed. You know what women are going through and you know how to help them through it. So yeah, just some testimonials from clients, and it was such an awesome opportunity to be able to work with some of these amazing women. So the program that I lead is called Reclaim 40 Days. And here is exactly how it works. And I want to be specific because I know some of you are picturing another program you have to show up to perfectly. That is not the case. Our church says no perfect people allowed. So I'm not perfect, and I know no one else is either, except for God. So every Monday at noon Eastern time, we're together on Zoom live as a group for 90 minutes. So I stay with you for 90 minutes. If you need a little bit more time, we do what we need to do in order to get you support. This is not a pre-recorded video. It's a live call where there's prayer, teaching, and group coaching. You will hear other women get coached in real time, and something happens when you realize someone else is asking the exact question that you were too afraid to bring up. That's the Monday call, and it's the heartbeat of the program. I'm also in your group text on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. So it's not a big anonymous online group where nobody sees your message. It's a simple group text that we use an app to text from. You can send a question at 10 a.m. and I'm there to respond. So you can share a win, ask for prayer, get real-time support between calls. All of that takes place as well. And then there's the resource library. So 10 private audio podcast episodes that walk alongside you through the 40 days. So on day 17, biologically, a couple of things will be happening to you during that time. So there's an audio podcast that you open up on day 17. Day 3, 4, 5, there's some things that are going to happen to you biologically, maybe. So there's an audio podcast. So they're designed specifically for what the data says happens to your body as you start to wean off of sugar. So again, there's 7 teaching videos as well, 9 PDFs, including the full Hidden Sugar Guide, because I just gave you a couple of them today. And then the meal prep game plan. I call meal prep my emergency food. So we talk about that so you're prepared. So when you want to go pick up XYZ, you have PDQ available for you, right? You also get the Reclaim Journal with daily prayer pages and progress tracking beyond the scale, and the Reclaim Prayer Framework. So that's 5 specific prayers for 5 specific moments. Morning, before meals, during a craving, after a slip, and at the close of each day. Think of it as a prayer guide. Again, you have your own relationship with God, so you can pray as you want, but these kind of give you a couple of things to maybe point out as you start that process of praying in an area that you may not have prayed before, like to help with sugar. So you can start at any time. All content is available to you on day 1, but as a group, our next group starts on August the 10th. So Monday, August the 10th is when our next full group starts. The program fits around your life, and the time commitment gets lighter as the weeks go on. So by week 4, most women tell me they stop feeling like it's a program and start feeling like this is just how they live and they're in community with other people. Here's something Reclaim does a little differently. So if you slip during the 40 days, and most women do at some point, you don't start over, you continue. The language is very, very important. Just like we're supposed to speak positive words over ourselves, that's part of the process of what we learn during Reclaimed as well. You don't start over, you're simply continuing. One of my clients had an ice cream sandwich on day 20, and she didn't quit, and she didn't tell herself she was going to quit. She said she didn't even feel like spiraling out. She just said, all right, I had the ice cream, I'm starting over. I'm not starting over, I'm continuing. And then she finished the 40-day program. That single shift in language changed everything for her. As I like to say, what if every time we sin, God said, nope, start over, you failed. He doesn't do that, and we shouldn't do that to ourselves either, right? So I want to ask you something completely, and be completely honest. How many new years have you started with new intention? How many Mondays? How many after the holidays, after the graduation, after the wedding? There's always something that's going to come up. And I'm not asking that to make you feel bad. I'm asking it because, again, I did the same thing to myself and ended up with 18 different doctors, two world-renowned medical facilities across 4 states and over $20,000 out of pocket because I kept saying tomorrow, next week. And you know how God will somehow like have things keep even popping up on social media for you for like a year prior to my big crash. Every time I opened up social media, it was something like, oh, do this detox, oh, do this fast. And I just kept ignoring it until I was forced to do it. I'm asking, so again, I'm not asking this to add a layer of shame or anything like that. I am asking because I want you to notice the pattern because the pattern has a cost. Every month that the cycle runs, the habits that we have go much, much deeper. Every season you stay in the loop, the belly weight accumulates just a little bit more. The sleep stays disrupted, the anxiety stays there, the hot flashes get louder. And here's the part I really want you to hear. You have a calling, you have a purpose, you have a plan. And as I say to myself when I want to get off the wagon, I cannot do the plan that God has for me if I am sick. And the same thing goes for you. That is not a small thing to address when or to get around it. That is the whole thing. You have a purpose and a plan for your life. Think about 20 days from now. That's when most women in Reclaim tell me they hit the first critical mark. So the cravings get a little more quiet, the sleep has shifted, the weight around the middle, they can kind of start to see that it's responding. That's less than 3 weeks away. 20 days from now, you can be exactly where you are today, or you can be someone who slept better last week, walked through the kitchen without negotiating for that chocolate chip cookie, showed up to the morning with a more clear mind than you've had maybe in years. Those 20 days are going to pass no matter what. The question is, what will you be doing during those 20 days? Let me tell you what this is worth. All right, I'm going to show you this. Go back to this slide real quick here. So a private one-to-one sugar coaching engagement, not a group program, just you and a coach with the level of support Reclaim provides, would run about $600 to $900 per month. This is just for 1 month, without the community, without the live weekly calls, without the full resource library. Reclaim gives you weekly live group calls where I'm teaching and coaching in real time, group text support from me personally twice a week. And yes, I've responded to someone while they were at the grocery store. 10 private audio podcasts, 7 teaching videos, 9 PDFs, meal planning, hidden sugars, trigger worksheets, prayer frameworks, a 40-day workbook, and access to everything on day one. $600 to $900 for 1 month, one-to-one, no community, no library, no framework, no group, or Reclaimed. And Reclaimed is 40 days and it's just $250. It's one payment, no subscription, no annual fees, everything for the full 40 days. And because you are here live today, I have a special offer for you. Included with the workshop, there's group coaching, but no one-on-one coaching. Because you're here live today, until the end of the day today, till midnight, you have the opportunity to get a 1-hour one-on-one live coaching with me as well. Consider that your bonus. So if you sign up anytime between now and midnight, I'll include the 1-hour free coaching, and that's valued at $150. Right here on the screen is 2 different ways that you can sign up. You can get more information at hellohotflash.com/reclaim. Or if you're ready to sign up right now, you can go and click on the link here. So let me actually stop the share and I'm going to get the links for you. I'll make it a little easier for you so you don't have to try to, who said, Angela said, menopause is very real. Menopause is no joke. You are right. You are absolutely right. No joke whatsoever. All right, so here are both of the links right there for you. Dr. Farron she was my very first client, and she said, wow, it's truly life-changing and unlike any nutritional guide I've ever seen. I've read about the effects of cortisol on weight loss, but this plan targets that in a unique way. I believe this will produce long-term results and improve my life in more than just nutrition. And she's a doctor, but she's also an athlete. So it was awesome to be able to work with her. Right. So I'm going to pull the screen back up for you real quick. Here you go. So, and here's the thing that I want you to know. There is absolutely no risk here. If you show up for the first 7 days of the call, you come to the group text, have the daily work done, and you still feel stuck, tell me. I am here to help you. I cannot be, in good conscience, I could not help you if you were stuck during this. So I'll personally review your week one work, identify exactly what's getting in the way, and schedule another one-on-one with you. So if you sign up before midnight tonight, you'll get the free one-on-one. But if you come through the first 7 days, and you're like, I still need I need more time with you because this isn't working out. Show me the work that you've done and we'll schedule another one-on-one. So that could ultimately end up being an extra $300 in value because it's $150 per call, right? So not $150 that you're paying. These are just bonuses. The cost for Reclaim is $250. And here's something I want you to know about day 41, because like what happens after the program, Stephanie? Well, the program doesn't end. You keep your community access. That means any future workshops that may be workshops that I bill for, you'll get those at no charge. Retreats, you'll be first to learn the information about upcoming retreats or any other special offers. You also continue to have access to the women in the group, which I think is a huge part of this work. The relationship built in 40 days doesn't disappear, and you receive the Reclaim Life Framework. It's a daily rhythm and a clear plan for what to do when the old patterns try to come back. This is not where it ends. This is where it becomes yours permanently. So go to your workbook, page 6, the page where you wrote what freedom would feel like, then read it. And ask yourself this one honest question. Should I do a program? Or am I going to do this alone? If the answer is even maybe, kind of maybe I might, head over to hellohotflash.com/reclaim right now. The link is in the chat. But if you're ready to go, if you're like, yes, Stephanie, I am completely ready to go, you can click on the link there for ThriveCart and you can sign up now. So are there any questions? Anything at all? All right. As I said, I'll make sure that this you'll have access to this via a replay, and you'll have access to my email. So if you have any questions or anything for me, just send me an email. I'd love to chat with you. All right. Here's to your health.